Yeah. He is old, he is happy, now President Brown. Yes, and we're going to go. His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda and the President Honorable Mama President Museveni. Will you take the presidential salute? Shall not the people of Uganda. Your Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda. Our Honorable President, we are happy to see you and we congratulate you on your behalf, Your Excellency.
just ahead of you here. Again to the far east. Now the fifth wings come. And that's him doing the maneuvers up here. Ugandans, another up, there you are. Your Excellencies, in the far east,
I congratulate all the Ugandans for attaining 50 years since independence in 1962. Congratulations. I also, on this occasion, would like to welcome the Excellencies, the President of the Fraternal African countries, who have come to join us on this occasion. Excellencies, Mondial, the President of Benin, we also share the African Union, His Excellency Robert Mugabe, President of Zimbabwe, His Excellency Paul Kagame, President of Uganda, His Excellency Joseph Kabila, President of DRC, our neighbor, His Excellency Mwai Kibaki, President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency François Bozizé, President of the Central Republic, His Excellency Pierre Nkurunziza, President of the Republic of Jubilee, His Excellency Abdulaziz, President of Mauritania, His Excellency Yakawa, President of the Republic of Botswana, His Excellency Salva Kiir, President of the Republic of South Sudan, His Excellency Mohamed Morsi, President of the Republic of Egypt, and His Excellency the new President of Somalia was just been elected. I congratulate him. Then there was also Prime Minister Mariam of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia.
And Mugabe.
We have also got Their Excellency the Vice President from Tanzania, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the Republic of Sudan. We also have the Vice President Prime Minister from Zimbabwe.
Council, ready to you. As I told you, we also have His Royal Highness the Duke of Kent, who was here to represent Her Majesty the Queen in 1962. We welcome him back. At that time, he was a young adult while I was a teenager, and I remember him very well. His presence gives us a lot of pleasure because he's the very person that handed over the instruments of independence to our first executive Prime Minister, the late Milton Obote. His Excellency Mutesa II was the ceremonial head of state at that time. There's also His Highness the Aga Khan, who helped us build the Bujagari Dam, which we commissioned yesterday. Recently, I gave a Jubilee public lecture. In that lecture, I identified 10 strategic bottlenecks that independent Uganda confronted at its birth in 1962. Let me give a summary of those strategic bottlenecks that I mentioned on that occasion. They are, number one, ideological disorientation, which manifested itself in the sectarianism of religion and tribes, failing to see that, as a matter of fact, all groups in Uganda benefit from each other by buying products of the respective groups, apart from the other historical, linguistic, and cultural similarities or linkages. Number two, a state structure, especially the army, that needed radical reform, because apart from being sectarian, the army was also led and manned by people of little or no education. Number three, attacking the minuscule private sector based on the ideology of inadequately analyzed nationalism, because all investments made in Uganda being part of our GDP, in fact, strengthen our independence rather than weakening it. This is what some revolutionaries called using capitalism to build socialism. As you heard in the introduction, there is also a very powerful delegation from the People's Republic of China. They are here with us. And also a very powerful delegation from Algeria, led by the deputy speakers. Number 4, a human resource that was not educated or well catered for in terms of health. Indeed, some improvement in health care, especially through immunization, has led to the increment of the population, especially in the last 26 years, from 7 million at independence to 34 million today. Number 5, inadequately developed infrastructure, especially electricity, roads, the railways, piped water, all undermining the profitability of investments in the country on account of high costs of doing business in this economy. Number 6, a small internal market on account of colonialism fragmenting the ancient pre-colonial market that used to stretch from the River Congo to Zanzibar on the Indian Ocean and to the swamps of South Sudan, the inconveniences caused by the greedy tribal chiefs notwithstanding. Number 7, lack of industrialization, exporting only raw materials, thereby donating money and jobs to foreign economies. Number 8, an underdeveloped services sector, hotels, banks, insurance, transport, etc. Number 9, an underdeveloped agriculture with only a small portion of the economy being engaged in commercial agriculture, while the majority of the farmers were only engaged in subsistence farming using inferior seeds and breeding stock, not using fertilizers, no irrigation, and not using improved agro practices. And finally, number 10, a culture and history that lacked democracy. Fortunately, we have identified all these 10 bottlenecks and we have started working on them. On the strategic bottleneck number 2, for instance, we decisively handled that factor of a criminal colonial state by disbanding the colonial army and building a new army guided by the ideology of patriotism, led by educated people, professionally competent, and pro-people in its attitude. It is on account of this metamorphosis that this army was able to deal with the very complicated situation in Somalia. On the side of the development of the human resource, we have introduced free education in primary, secondary, advanced level secondary, and technical schools. As a consequence, we now have about 8.3 million children in the primary schools, 1.3 million children in the secondary schools, and 150,000 students in the universities. In 1962, we only had 477,000 children in the primary school. We had 16,000 students in the secondary schools, and we only had 1,550 students in the university in 1962. Therefore, as far as primary schools are concerned, the number of children has gone up almost by 16 times the number of children in the primary schools compared to 1962. On the side of infrastructure, I will single out only electricity. The British had built for us only one power station, commissioned by Her Majesty the Queen in 1954. Due to the collapse of the system soon after independence, especially under Idi Amin, by 1986, that power station was producing only 60 megawatts instead of the original 150 megawatts. Consequently, in 1986, Uganda's kilowatt hour per capita was 31. Using external funding, we repaired the old station, built a new one on the eastern bank of the Nile, pushing electricity production to 380 megawatts, if the water was available to operate both stations. At that stage, our plans for electricity generation got stuck because of relying on fickle external funding. The external funders are only too ready to believe any lie from all detractors: environment issues, some rare butterflies, ancestral spirits of some tribes, etc. The greatest threat to the environment is the lack of electricity. That is why we had to set up the Energy Fund by sacrificing almost everything in order to do so, so that we escape from the blackmail of external funding in at least the electricity field. We are now generating 810 megawatts. This gives us a kilowatt hour per capita of 215, compared to the United States, which has got a kilowatt hour per capita of 12,914. We are aiming at 20,000 megawatts in the next few years, which is the level of consumption of electricity of a country like Japan, minus what they utilize for heating houses in winters and cooling them in hot summers, a cost Uganda does not fortunately have to incur because of our good climate. Working with our partners in the region, i.e. the East African Community and the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, we are addressing the problem of market fragmentation to help our producers have a bigger market to which they can sell their products. Besides, we have negotiated for market access at zero tariff and quota-free access with the United States of America. We have also done the same with the European Union, with China, India, Japan, etc. That bottleneck of too small a market is more or less resolved. The question now is to deal with the bottleneck of exporting raw materials that makes us get only 10% of the value of our products. To take the example of coffee, where we have been getting only $1 per kilogram of raw bean coffee, while the same kilogram of bean coffee can bring in US dollars 15 when it is processed by roasting, grinding, and packing. We have already made modest progress in this field with some roasting and packing of coffee. We have invested heavily in the processing of bananas so that we export banana flour and starch. It makes the internal distribution of banana products also much easier. With adequate electricity and improved transport, it will be easier for us to get investors to add value to all our raw materials. The size of our economy will go up by about 10 times by merely adding value to our raw materials, even at the present level of raw material production. We are not only talking about raw materials, we are talking about the products of the human brain by our people. You saw here the electric car, which has been made in Uganda by our scientists. That car is called Chira, like our river Nile. And we are developing it. We are funding them ourselves. The government is funding them to make sure that we produce that car commercially. We have already started modernization of agriculture through our research institutions by developing improved seeds and breeding stock. We need, however, to add the use of fertilizers by building the fertilizer factory using our huge phosphate deposits at Tororo, to do more irrigation to cope with the sometimes erratic patterns of the rain, and use improved agro practices like contouring, water conservation, mulching, spacing of plants, etc. The experiment we have carried out with bananas in Bushenyi showed that while the peasants are getting 5.9 tons of bananas per hectare, in the experimental station, we are getting 53 tons plus of bananas per hectare. This is without irrigation. They hope, the researchers, to go up to 80 tons of bananas per hectare. With the oil and gas that we recently discovered, it will be easy to fund at least infrastructure projects such as electricity, the roads, the railway, piped water, as well as scientific research and innovation. However, much of the growth will be by the private sector. I have repeatedly told the Ugandans that there are two sovereign actors in modern economies. The first sovereign actor, the investor, who encapsulates entrepreneurship, savings, and ability to deploy appropriate technology in creating a product on the one hand, and the consumer on the other hand. If you do not have one of these two, a modern economy cannot sustainably grow. If you do not have the investor, local or foreign, who will produce products or services for you? Who will create employment for you? Who will earn foreign exchange for you? Who will generate taxes for you? And if you do not get more taxes, how will you fund services? How will you fund security? And how will you fund infrastructure, etc.? Some countries, like China, have successfully utilized parastatals. This is because of their tough internal discipline. Even then, they have had to mix by allowing foreign and local private companies to operate in China. The second crucial question is, if nobody buys what you produce, how will you sustain production? Hence my advice to Uganda that in modern times, these two, the investor and the consumer, are the most important players. NRM, our liberation movement, holds in contempt and denounces sectarianism of religion or tribe and fights gender chauvinism. We believe firmly in the four principles: nationalism and sectarianism, Pan-Africanism, socio-economic transformation, and democracy. It is this posture that has enabled Uganda to move forward in the last 26 years. We have clearly identified the strategic bottlenecks as well as other tactical bottlenecks, such as dealing with counterfeit products, corruption, the red tape, etc. With this awareness, plus our anticipated oil revenues, Uganda, without any doubt, will become a medium-income country in the next few years, and certainly a first-world country in the next 50 years. My belief in that roadmap is unshakable. We are working to transform Uganda by relying on agriculture, hydropower. We were working to transform Uganda by relying on agriculture, hydropower, manufacturing, tourism, and our human resource. With oil and other minerals which we found recently, it makes our work much easier. I thank all of you, and I wish you a happy future. I thank our guests for sharing this moment of happiness with us. Thank you all. God bless Uganda, and God bless Africa. Thank you very much.